Good day, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to today's presentation. We will be exploring the rich and diverse communities that make up Mindanao in the Philippines. Our focus will be on the indigenous groups, Muslim communities, and other cultural minorities that contribute to the vibrant tapestry of this region. On this first slide, you'll see the title, The Cultural Community in Mindanao, from Chapter 5, Lesson 4. Throughout this presentation, we'll take a closer look at their unique traditions, histories, and contributions. So, let's dive into understanding what makes Mindanao truly special. The Lumid are non-Muslim and non-Christian, although their cultural development has been influenced by Muslim groups, as Jacano noted in 1998. Due to ongoing issues like deforestation and efforts by the lowland majority to assimilate them into Christian culture, the ICC faces serious challenges in preserving their ancestral domain and cultural identity. Historically, the Lumid have been pushed into the mountains and forests as towns and cities expanded by lowlanders. Many of them do not have access to private property or wealth, and they often face widespread discrimination, which makes it difficult for them to integrate into mainstream society. In terms of historical displacement, the enactment of Republic Act 6734 during Corazon Aquino's presidency was significant because it used this term to differentiate these indigenous communities from the Bangsamoro people. The Lumid are a group of indigenous cultural communities in the Philippines, making up about 10% of the national population. They are often called cultural minorities. In 1986, more than 15 ICC groups in Mindanao adopted the name Lumid, a Biscayan word meaning native or indigenous, to distinguish themselves from Christians and Muslims in the region. So, in summary, the Lumid are an important part of our country's cultural fabric, but they face ongoing struggles to maintain their identity and land rights amidst historical and contemporary challenges. Language and cultural identity. Felipe Landa Jacano, a respected anthropologist, highlights an interesting point. Language often serves as the main distinguishing factor among different ethnic groups, especially those living close to each other. Most of the ICC groups in Mindanao speak languages that belong to the Manobo language family. However, there are some notable exceptions. Groups like the Blan, Tiboli, and Tejere speak languages that are outside of the Manobo family, which makes their linguistic identity quite distinct from the others. This diversity in language is a key part of understanding how these groups see themselves and their cultural identities. It's fascinating to see how language acts as a marker of belonging and differentiation within the rich tapestry of Mindanao's indigenous communities. So, in essence, language isn't just a means of communication. It's deeply tied to their sense of identity and heritage. Today, I'll be talking about some of the major Lumid communities in Mindanao, specifically around Cotabato. First, we have the Tiboli, who live in the southern part of Cotabato province, particularly around Lake Cebu, which is west of General Santos City. They are well known for their rich cultural traditions and their deep connection to nature. Next are the Mandaya, who reside in the highlands of north-central Mindanao. Historically, they are farmers, cultivating crops like corn, rice, sweet potatoes, bananas, and coconuts, really vital for their livelihood and cultural practices. Then, we have the Bukidnon, who inhabit the south-central part of Mindanao. They live scattered in houses among gardens and are led by a Dadu, a traditional leader, which highlights their community structure and social organization. Moving on, the Bilan, also known as Bilan, live in the mountainous regions between the upper Pilangi and Davao rivers. They are also referred to by other names like Manobo, Manuvu, Abo, and Obo, which show the diversity within their group. Then there are the Bagobos, who traditionally inhabited the southwest highlands of Mindanao. They are sometimes called Dulangan or Tudag, reflecting different subgroups or local names within the community. Finally, we have the Cotabato Manobo, who are part of the larger Lumid groups. Understanding these communities helps us appreciate the rich cultural tapestry of Mindanao and the importance of their traditional ways of life. As we look at this slide, I want to highlight how the widespread adoption of Christianity and its integration into mainstream lowland society have led to the gradual disappearance of traditional Cotabato Manobo culture. Their story really reflects a broader challenge faced by many Lumad groups, who are under increasing pressure from dominant cultural forces. For example, in the past, Cotabato Manobo boys and girls would go through a significant rite of passage. This involved a ceremony where their teeth were filed and blackened, symbolizing their transition into adulthood. Following that, they would taste new rice in a ritual that marked their coming of age. This tradition was central to their cultural identity, but unfortunately, it has faded over time due to assimilation. The Cotabato Manobo traditionally inhabited the southwest highlands of Mindanao, and they are also known as the Dulengan and Tudag. Over the years, many have embraced Christianity and integrated into mainstream society. As a result, their unique cultural practices and traditions are now nearly extinct. So, when we consider their story, it underscores the importance of understanding how external influences can impact indigenous cultures, and the need to preserve these rich traditions before they disappear altogether. Let's talk about some of the social rules that shape the Bagobo society. They have very strict incest taboos, which govern how family and social relationships are formed and maintained. These rules help keep social order and kinship boundaries clear. Another interesting aspect is the formation of vengeance groups. These groups serve both as a social institution and a form of protection for the community. They play a crucial role in maintaining justice and social cohesion. Moving on to their cultural expressions, the Bagobo are known for producing long epic poems called tuwang. These poems are a rich oral tradition that pass down stories, history, and values through generations, highlighting their vibrant cultural heritage. Now let's look at their settlements. Some upland Bagobo villages are quite small, often just a few families living on hilltops. Others are larger settlements, but generally, these villages are tightly knit communities. Their culture is characterized by three main features. Firstly, village life varies between coastal and upland Bagobo. The coastal Bagobo have been significantly influenced by Christianity and plantation culture, leading to greater assimilation into mainstream society. In contrast, upland Bagobo maintain more traditional ways, practicing slash-and-burn agriculture and relying on hunting, gathering, and fishing for about a quarter of their food. The Bagobo are divided into two main groups, each with distinct lifestyles and levels of cultural preservation. They live in the mountainous regions of Mindanao, between the upper Pilangi and Davao rivers. They're also known by several names, including Manobo, Manuvu, Abo, and Obo. Finally, understanding their location and identity helps us see how geography influences their way of life, traditions, and interactions with the wider society. This diversity within the Bagobo community reflects their adaptability and rich cultural history. The Bilan communities are organized under the authority of Dadu, or traditional chieftains, who oversee their scattered settlements. These settlements are often spread out among gardens, which really reflects their close relationship with agriculture and the natural environment around them. Their way of living is very much tied to the land they cultivate and the resources they rely on. When it comes to their social structure, one of the most striking aspects is their funerary practice. Instead of traditional burial methods, they wrap their dead in tree barks and suspend them from the treetops. This practice highlights their deep spiritual connection to nature and symbolizes their beliefs about death and the afterlife. It's a unique tradition that shows how intertwined their worldview is with the natural world. The Bilan people, also known as Bilan, inhabit the south-central part of Mindanao. They go by many names: Balad, Baron, Bilanes, Buron, and several others, reflecting the rich diversity within their community. Their houses are scattered among gardens, and their leadership is centered around datu, or chieftains, who provide guidance and governance. Overall, these traditions and social structures give us a glimpse into a community that values harmony with nature and maintains a strong sense of identity through their unique practices and leadership. Let's take a closer look at Buchanan's rich agricultural heritage. Traditionally, the community's way of life revolved around highland farming, with water buffalo playing a crucial role in their farming practices. This lifestyle has sustained their communities for generations, shaping their social and cultural identity. Over time, we see a significant shift in their social organization. The move from communal housing, where multiple families lived together, to single-family homes marks an important change. It reflects broader social transformations and evolving community structures among the Buchanan. Many Buchanan have also assimilated into mainstream Philippine society. Most are now Catholics, which indicates a broader pattern of cultural change. As lowland Christian culture expanded into the highlands, it influenced many Lumad groups, including the Buchanan, leading to this religious and cultural shift. However, those who stay closer to their traditional roots often live near the headwaters of the Pulengi River, on the slopes of Mount Kittinglad or Mount Kalatungan. Historically, they lived in communal houses that housed up to 50 families, but today, they tend to live in single-family houses. This contrast between traditional and modern life highlights how the Buchanan community continues to evolve. They are a people deeply connected to their land, with a rich history of farming, growing crops like corn, rice, sweet potatoes, bananas, and coconuts, and using water buffalo for plowing. Ultimately, the Buchanan are a resilient community, balancing their traditional ways with modern influences, all while maintaining their unique identity as highland farmers in north-central Mindanao. The Mandaya are an animist ethnic group, and they live along the Mayo River. In the past, Mandaya youth would go through a unique rite of passage when they reached puberty. Specifically, they would file and blacken their teeth. This practice was more than just aesthetic. It was believed to enhance their beauty and help them find suitable marriage partners. It's a clear example of how their cultural practices are deeply connected to their social values and identity. These rites marked an important transition into adulthood within Mandaya society, highlighting how cultural traditions shape life milestones. Understanding these practices helps us appreciate the rich diversity and the significance of cultural identity among the Mandaya people. The primary agricultural products of the Tiboli people include rice, cassava, and yams. These staples are essential to their diet and livelihood. In addition to farming, they also engage in hunting and fishing, which supplement their food sources. It's important to note that in the past, they practiced slash-and-burn agriculture, which involved clearing forest areas by cutting down large trees and burning the underbrush. This method allowed them to create arable land that could be used for several years without fertilization. However, due to environmental concerns and the impact on forest ecosystems, slash-and-burn agriculture is no longer a viable practice today. The Tiboli people mainly live in the southern part of Cotabato province, particularly around Lake Cebu, which is west of General Santos City. Historically, their way of life was closely tied to the forest and these traditional farming methods. Understanding their agricultural practices and living environments helps us appreciate how they adapt to and manage their natural resources. This connection between their culture and environment is a key part of the overall story of the Tiboli. Muslims make up the largest minority group in the Philippines, and they often find themselves outside the mainstream of our national life. This is mainly because of their distinct religion and way of living. They follow the Islamic faith, which plays a central role in shaping their culture. Their traditions and practices are deeply rooted in Islam, setting them apart from the majority. When we look at the Muslims of Mindanao, we see a vibrant community with a rich cultural heritage influenced profoundly by their faith. Understanding this helps us appreciate the diversity within our country and see how their unique identity contributes to the broader Filipino mosaic. Recognizing these differences is important as we continue to promote unity and respect among all Filipinos. Philippine Muslims are not a monolithic group. They are made up of various subgroups, each distinguished primarily by their language. These subgroups each have their own unique history, territory, and cultural traditions, which enrich the diverse tapestry of Islam in the Philippines. When we look at how Islam influences every aspect of life for these communities, it's clear that it goes far beyond personal spirituality. It shapes their approach to business and commerce, their governance and laws, their educational systems, and their social life and family traditions. It also influences their arts and cultural expressions. Unlike some religions that focus mainly on the spiritual or personal level, Islam, as practiced by Philippine Muslims, impacts every dimension of daily life. This widespread influence is rooted in their core belief that Mohammed is the final messenger of God, and that the holy scripture guiding their lives is the Al-Quran. A fundamental declaration of their faith is, "There is no God but Allah, and Mohammed is his messenger." This simple yet profound statement encapsulates their complete submission to the will of Allah, which encompasses all areas of life, from how they conduct business to how they govern, learn, socialize, and express themselves culturally. In essence, the Islamic way of life is a comprehensive system, guiding every action and decision. It's this holistic approach that makes their faith so integral to their identity and daily existence, connecting all these points back to the overarching theme of how religion shapes life in every way. Each subgroup of Muslims in the Philippines is primarily distinguished by their language and geographic location. This diversity is a direct result of how Islam spread across the southern Philippine archipelago. It wasn't a single, uniform movement, but occurred through various means, such as trade, conquest, and intermarriage. These different methods helped Islam take root in different areas, leading to a rich tapestry of cultural and linguistic identities among the Muslim communities. Understanding these subgroups is crucial because it highlights the complex history of Islamic influence in the region, illustrating how religion, culture, and geography are interconnected in shaping these communities. This diversity also reflects the broader theme of how history, culture, and geography interact to create the unique identities we see today in these Muslim groups. The Maguindanao are believed to have converted to Islam between the 15th and 16th centuries, making them one of the earliest groups in the Philippines to embrace Islam. This early conversion played a significant role in shaping their cultural identity and history. When it comes to language, they speak a language that belongs to the same group as other Philippine languages like Tagalog, which highlights the linguistic connections that span across the archipelago. Their name, Maguindanao, actually comes from the phrase "people of flooded plain," reflecting their geographic roots and the environment they inhabit. This name is also linked to the sultanate that historically ruled the area, emphasizing their political and cultural significance. Today, they are recognized as the largest Muslim group in the Philippines, which underscores their importance in the country's religious landscape. The Maguindanao people primarily reside in the Pulengi area, covering parts of North Cotabato, Sultan Kudarat, and Maguindanao provinces. Their territory is diverse and also includes other cultural communities like the Tichiray, Tiboli, and Manobo. Understanding their origins, language, and geographic location helps us appreciate their prominent role in the history and cultural fabric of the Philippines. Maranao families are traditionally large and closely knit, which means they often have many members living together or maintaining strong family ties. This sense of community and kinship is really central to their social structure. Interestingly, some individuals who come from ancestral royalty still hold political influence today, helping to preserve a form of traditional aristocratic power within modern governance. Their culture is a unique blend of Islamic principles and traditional beliefs, a mix often called folk Islam. This syncretic approach shows how pre-Islamic customs have been integrated with the teachings of the Quran, creating a rich spiritual tradition that's both religious and cultural. The Maranao are also the largest Muslim community and cultural minority in the Philippines. They are often called the people of the lake because they live around Lake Lanao, which is central to their identity. Their language is similar to Maguindanao and Aranan, highlighting their close linguistic and cultural connections with neighboring Muslim groups. So, in essence, the Maranao are a vibrant community deeply rooted in tradition, faith, and kinship. and their cultural influence continues to be significant both locally and nationally. The Tausug people are primarily spread across the Sulu Islands, but their influence extends far beyond that. You'll find communities and cultural connections in Tawi-Tawi, Palawan, Basilan, Zamboanga, and even Sabah in present-day Malaysia. This wide geographic reach really demonstrates how influential their culture and political structures have been over centuries. Now, the name Tausug itself is quite meaningful. It means people of the current or brave people, which highlights their strong seafaring heritage. Their reputation for courage and resilience has been a defining trait throughout their history, especially given their seafaring lifestyle and resistance against various external threats. Furthermore, the Tausug adopted Islam early on, which played a crucial role in shaping their society. They embraced the Islamic system of government, which led to the establishment of the Sulu Sultanate. This sultanate became one of the most powerful political entities in the southern Philippines, showcasing their leadership and organizational skills. All these points come together to show how the Tausug are not just a local community, but a significant cultural and political force in the region. Their far-reaching influence, seafaring identity, and leadership in establishing the Sulu Sultanate are central to understanding their historical importance. The Sama's close relationship with the sea is truly central to their way of life. It influences not just their economy, but also their cultural practices, spiritual beliefs, and how they organize their society. Everything they do is deeply connected to the rhythms of ocean life. Most Sama communities depend mainly on fishing as their primary livelihood. But their connections don't stop there. They also engage in trade with cities in northern Borneo. This long history of maritime trade links the southern Philippines to the broader Southeast Asian trading network, showing how interconnected their world is. When we look at their economy and trade, we see a lifestyle rooted in constant movement among the islands and living on the water. This nomadic, maritime existence has defined who they are for generations, making them quite distinct from land-based communities. Their traditional lifestyle involves a lot of mobility, and this fluid way of living is a key part of their identity. The Sama people, including the subgroup known as the Bajau, are scattered throughout the Sulu archipelago. They're often called sea gypsies because of their deep, inseparable bond with the sea and maritime activities. All these aspects, their economy, lifestyle, and identity, highlight how integral the ocean is to the Sama, shaping not just their livelihood but their very sense of self. Certainly, here is the word-by-word narrative script for Slide 18. Due to political conflicts in Basilan, many Yakan individuals have migrated to Zamboanga City, creating a significant Yakan diaspora community in the urban center while maintaining their distinct cultural identity. Migration to Zamboanga has allowed the Yakan to preserve their traditions despite being away from their original homeland. The Yakan have remained separate from other ruling authorities, except those of their own sultanates and datus. This fierce independence has been a defining characteristic of Yakan political culture throughout history. The Yakan people primarily reside in Basilan, which is south of Mindanao. Like the Mindanao, they integrate Islamic principles with traditional beliefs, a practice referred to as folk Islam. This blending of faiths highlights their unique cultural identity and resilience. Historically, the Iranan people played a significant role in the region's history. They fought under the Maguindanao Sultanate, serving as a key military force that helped shape the power dynamics of Muslim Mindanao. Many of the Maguindanao sultans themselves were of Iranan descent, which highlights the deep political and genealogical ties between these two groups. This connection wasn't just about warfare. It influenced alliances and leadership structures that lasted for centuries. The Iranan are also considered the origin of several ethnic groups in Lanao del Sur and Maguindanao. Their language, Iranan, is especially important because it's seen as a root influence on both the Mindanao and Maguindanao languages. This linguistic connection underscores their foundational role in the cultural and historical identity of Muslim Mindanao. So, when we look at the region's history, The Iranians' prominence as warriors, political figures, and cultural founders is truly significant, shaping the region's identity that we see today. The term Kalabugan is used in a broader sense as well, and it refers to all individuals who accepted Islam through intermarriage, regardless of their original ethnic background. This means that Kalabugan is both a specific ethnic designation and a more general cultural category. When we talk about the Kalabugan, we're highlighting a distinctive cultural blending. Their identity is really at the crossroads of indigenous Sabanan heritage and Islamic influence, which they've acquired through generations of intermarriage. This makes them a living example of how cultural boundaries can be fluid and adaptable in Mindanao. Culturally, the Kalabugan, often referred to as half-breeds, have a unique identity shaped by their mixed heritage. They originally come from the Sabanan tribes, but over time, many adopted Islam through intermarriage with Muslim communities. This blending of traditions and faiths is what makes their culture so rich and diverse. So, in essence, the Kalabugan embody the dynamic interactions of ethnicity, religion, and culture in Mindanao, illustrating how communities evolve and adapt through historical and social processes. The Sangal are renowned for their boat-making skills, a craft that truly reflects their rich maritime heritage. This craftsmanship has been passed down through generations and highlights their deep connection to the sea. Historically, they have also been involved in buccaneering activities against Spanish territories, which makes them notable figures in the colonial history of this region. Their skills and activities showcase both their cultural identity and their historical resilience. Moving on to their religious background, it's important to note that the Sangal were already Muslim before they arrived in the Philippines. Unlike some groups that converted after settling here, their Islamic faith was carried with them from their Indonesian origins. This pre-arrival Islam is a significant part of their cultural identity, linking them directly to their ancestral homeland across the sea. Finally, the Sangal people currently inhabit areas like Balat Sarangani, parts of South Cotabato, and Davao del Sur. Their origins trace back to the Sang Islands in Indonesia, which is actually where their name comes from. This connection to their homeland across the sea is a key part of their identity and history, illustrating their long-standing maritime roots and cultural ties. After the departure of the Maguindanao Sultanate and Tausug influence from their area, the Calagan faced marginalization and limited social development. Without the political and cultural backing of these powerful groups, the Calagan were left in a vulnerable position. They struggled to maintain their social standing and cultural continuity in the Davao region. This shift significantly impacted their community and their ability to preserve their traditions and influence. It highlights how crucial political and cultural support is for a group's stability and growth. Their story is a reminder of how external forces can shape the development of indigenous groups over time. Tausug individuals played a crucial role in introducing Islam to the local people of Palawan. As the most prominent group within the Sulu Sultanate, they served as key agents of Islamization. Their influence spread across the islands of the southern Philippines through various means like trade, migration, and forming political alliances. When we look at the Muslim populations in Palawan today, we see communities in several municipalities such as Batarasa, Quezon, Brooks Point, Espanola, Nara, Roxas, Taytay, and Aborlan. These communities became Islamized largely due to the reach of the Sulu Sultanate, which extended its religious and political authority into Palawan from the Sulu archipelago. This historical connection highlights how the Tausug and the Sultanate played a pivotal role in shaping the religious landscape of Palawan, linking local communities to broader regional influences. The Jama Mapan maintain a political structure that revolves around the Sultanate, which is a traditional form of governance rooted in Islamic political organization. This means that their leadership and social organization are closely tied to Islamic principles and practices, helping to preserve their cultural identity and social stability. When it comes to their music and dance, you'll notice a strong influence from Southeast Asia. This reflects their position at the crossroads of Philippine and Southeast Asian cultures, showcasing a vibrant blend of regional traditions. Their artistic expressions highlight the broader cultural connections that island communities across this region share. Moving on to their location and livelihood, the Jama Mapan are primarily concentrated on Cagayan de Sulu Island. Interestingly, unlike many of their neighboring communities that are mainly sea-based, they lead a mostly land-based existence. However, they also engage actively in maritime trade, particularly focusing on commodities like copra and forest products, which are vital to their economy. So, in summary, their political and cultural life is deeply rooted in Islamic traditions and regional exchanges, while their livelihood combines land-based activities with maritime trade, allowing them to maintain a unique and resilient community identity. Let's take a closer look at the Bajau and their cultural rituals. These rituals are deeply centered around their relationship with the sea. For the Bajau, the ocean isn't just a place to fish or trade. It's a spiritual and cultural anchor that shapes every part of their lives, from the moment they are born until the time they pass away. It's truly at the heart of who they are. Now, when it comes to their economy and daily interactions, the Bajau engage in barter trade with shore communities. They exchange the fish and other resources they gather from the sea for agricultural produce and supplies from land. This creates a symbiotic relationship. Both communities benefit and stay connected. It also helps the Bajau maintain their unique maritime identity while still engaging with land-based societies. Speaking of skills, the Bajau are exceptional fishermen, divers, and navigators. They live on houseboats, which are like floating homes, and rely entirely on the sea for their livelihood. Their mastery of the ocean environment is truly unparalleled within Philippine cultural communities, showcasing their deep knowledge and skills honed over generations. Finally, it's worth noting that the Bajau are often called the Sea Gypsies. They mainly inhabit coastal areas of Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, Basilan, and some parts of Zamboanga del Sur. Their culture is so distinctive because it's essentially defined by their relationship with the sea, making them one of the most unique and fascinating communities in the Philippines. One notable feature of Subanon society is that gender roles are equally divided between men and women. This reflects a relatively egalitarian social structure, especially when you compare it to many neighboring communities. The balance in responsibilities is actually a defining characteristic of their cultural organization, showing how both genders contribute equally to their community's well-being. Moving on to their settlements and agriculture, Subanon communities are quite dispersed across the landscape. They practice manual farming methods, no plows or hoes, just simple tools that are effective in their forest environment. Their livelihood relies heavily on forest products, hunting, fishing, and gathering, which keeps them closely connected to the natural world around them. This subsistence lifestyle is deeply rooted in their environment and shapes much of their daily life. Now, historically, the Subanon have faced some difficult times. They experienced exploitation and even enslavement by coastal Muslim communities, which left a painful mark on their history. This history has influenced how they relate to their neighbors and has contributed to their tendency to live in dispersed, isolated settlements for protection and independence. Finally, the Subanon are an animist group who live as slash-and-burn agriculturists in the forested areas of southern Mindanao. They maintain a distinct cultural and religious identity, quite different from the Muslim and Christian lowlanders who surround them. Their way of life, their beliefs, and their connection to the land all set them apart, highlighting their resilience and unique identity within the broader cultural landscape. As anthropologist Giacano observed, language often serves as the only real differentiator among neighboring ethnic cultures. Most Lumid groups speak languages from the Manobo family, which ties them together, while Muslim groups speak related but distinct languages that reflect their histories linked to sultanates. This highlights how language functions as a core part of identity. The Muslim communities in Mindanao are the largest minority in the Philippines, making up about 13 different subgroups. These groups are united by their Islamic faith, and their way of life is deeply shaped by their complete submission to the will of Allah. They account for roughly 10% of the national population. Meanwhile, there are non-Muslim, non-Christian indigenous groups, like the Lumid, that have been pushed into highlands and forests. These groups face ongoing struggles to preserve their ancestral domains and cultural identities amid pressures to assimilate. Mindanao itself is one of Southeast Asia's most culturally diverse regions. It's a vibrant mosaic made up of Lumid communities, Muslim subgroups, and the Christian majority. All these groups have contributed to a complex, layered society, one that has been shaped over centuries through migration, trade, conflict, and coexistence. This diversity is what makes Mindanao so unique. It's a living example of how different cultures can coexist and continue to shape the region's rich cultural fabric. Let's take a moment to look at the diverse cultural communities of Mindanao. Starting with the 13 Muslim subgroups, each one is primarily distinguished by their language and geography. For example, from the Maguindanao, the largest Muslim group, to the Seafaring Bajau, these groups reflect the various pathways through which Islam spread across southern Philippines. Their diversity highlights how Islam has taken root in different communities in unique ways. Moving on to the Philippine Muslims as a whole, they represent the largest minority in the country. For them, Islam isn't just a religion, it's a complete way of life that governs every aspect of their daily routines. The core creed they follow is simple but profound. There is no God but Allah, and Mohammed is his messenger. Their holy scripture, the Al-Quran, guides their faith and practices. Within Mindanao, there are key groups like the Cotabato Manobo, Bagobos, Bilan, Bukidnon, Mandaya, and Tiboli. Each of these groups has its own distinct cultural practices, from teeth-filing rites to epic poetry called tuwang and even treetop burials. Most of these groups speak languages from the Manobo family, which ties their cultural identity together despite their differences. Now, let's talk about the Lumid. They make up about 10% of the Philippine population and are non-Muslim, non-Christian indigenous groups. Interestingly, they adopted the term Lumid only in 1986 to describe themselves. Unfortunately, today, they face numerous challenges: displacement, discrimination, and cultural erosion, mainly due to deforestation and increasing pressure to assimilate into the lowland majority. So, in summary, these cultural communities of Mindanao, Muslim and Lumid alike, embody the rich diversity of the island. Their languages, traditions, and histories reflect the complex ways in which identity, faith, and culture are woven into the fabric of Mindanao's society. Understanding this diversity is key to appreciating the vibrant mosaic that makes up the region.